So The Crow, City of Angels, is the second installment in the Crow series, and it's set in a dark dystopian version of Los Angeles, and it follows the story of Ash Corvin, a mechanic who's resurrected by a supernatural crow to avenge his murder and the death of his young son. And the film begins in a very weird way. It's probably one of the weirdest movies I've ever watched and reviewed on this channel, let alone just the beginning, the ending, everything as well. It's weird, okay? I could barely make it through this. Hell, I don't even remember, half of this movie now. I have some of it written down. Besides from that, there is not much, so I'm going off on a whim here to say I probably hated this movie while I was watching it, which was like a week ago, so pray for me while I was watching this movie, because he probably hated this, but yeah, let's get into the video. Yeah, the film follows Ash, who is the new Crow, so we pretty much just follow him as he goes against this guy who is like a drug lord who killed him and his son. And we also follow this Sarah chick who is a tattoo artist and a friend of well, not a friend, but she's a person who did some tattooing for some of the people who were in the gang. And yeah, so a crow mysteriously resurrects the now dead Ash, and he is alive, and he just shoots up out of the water, and then he's alive, and then he's with Sarah, and she's like, yo, and then he's like, where the hell am I? How am I alive? What the hell's going to help me? And yeah, so I really dislike just mainly everything in this movie. It's really bad. The acting, for one, is not the best. The designs aren't the best either, I won't lie. When I saw Salvation, some of the images in Salvation, I was like, that looks terrible. And I watched it and I was like, God, this is pretty damn good. But this movie in itself, though, is just probably one of my least favorites in this franchise. Probably slightly higher than the new one, but that's because the new one sucks. But yeah, so pretty much Ash hunts down some of Judah's henchmen one by one. He kills a few of them, sends them messages to hunt them down, and ultimately they fight and he kills him. Woohoo. And yeah, The Crow, City of Angels, it really tries to attempt the original movie again. It tries to recreate it in a different way, and it just doesn't work. I know it's adapting a different story, but this really didn't feel right to me, and it really just fails miserably at recreating the haunting really dark beauty of the original film with its gothic set pieces, rainy streets, and everything like that. This one just felt kind of bad. It tried to recreate the original and just fails miserably. The cinematographer has some cool atmospheric urban shots, but besides from that, there wasn't really much to love. Ultimately, despite the really cool visuals in the film, it really feels like it's trapped in the shadow of the original one. It struggles to find a fresh identity within its own thing, and even the performance of Ash is, though it's alright, it's really just under done. It doesn't feel like he really tried too hard with this role. It doesn't really feel like anyone tried too hard with their roles, besides maybe Judah's actor, because he was overdoing it the whole damn movie, and I'll commend him for that. But it was really dumb. And yeah, it's really just painful trying to watch this movie, especially after watching the OG right before this. The film's antagonist, as I said, he's alright. He's not bad, but he doesn't really add anything to the film. It just really lacks any substance in the film, which It's got substances, it's full of drugs, for God's sake, but in terms of action, well, let me talk about one of the positives. This has some pretty cool sequences. Like, there's a good explosion in there. Yet the visuals and the pacing drags like a... Oh my god. Like, it was painful, some of these scenes. They just went on for ages, and I genuinely could not be bothered to keep watching. I genuinely had to, like, take, I think, 4 breaks in between watching this movie, because I just couldn't be bothered. One of those breaks was an hour long, because I just needed, like a breather for an hour. That's how you know the film's kind of bad, because I needed a break for an hour. Like, sure, like, it tries to do its own thing, but I just have this whole sense of deja vu watching the movie, and it's just really, like, boring. Like, sure, it features some cool songs, but can it really compare to the OG? Like, ultimately, the film is an alright sequel, and, like, different story as a whole, but it doesn't really capture the spirit of, like, the predecessor while it tries to do that in the whole movie. It really just doesn't understand what made the first film good, and it really just, like, lacks, like, the same depth as the OG. While, all the actors tried their best, I'm sure, and the film style occasionally is kind of cool, but the storyline, character arcs, and everything else doesn't really, like, add up. And it doesn't really, like, live up either to the legacy of the OG film. If you like the Crow films, I'd say try and watch this, but, like, when I can't even talk about a film for 8 minutes, you know that it's not very good.